This is 11th class biology, lecture 3 of chapter 5, morphology of flowering plants. In today's lecture, we will discuss about types of leaves, phyllotaxy, modifications of leaves, inflorescence and characteristics of flower. So let's start with the types of leaves. So there are mainly two types of leaves. First is simple leaves. Okay, in simple leaves, a leaf is said to be simple when its lamina is entire or when incised. Okay, see here, this is lamina. Okay, this can also be called leaf blade, right? This is also lamina or leaf blade. Okay, so a leaf is said to be simple when its lamina is entire, as you can see here. Okay, this lamina is entire, there is no incision, means there is no cut in the lamina, so this leaf is called simple leaf. And this leaf is also simple leaf. There are these cuts, means these incisions are present here, but these incisions are not touching the midrib, right? These incisions are not touching the midrib, so such a leaf is also called simple leaf. Okay, so a leaf is said to be simple if the lamina is entire like this, or when incised, the incisions do not touch the midrib like this, right? So such leaf is called simple leaf. Second type of leaf is compound leaf. Okay, when the incisions of the lamina reach up to the midrib, right? When the incisions, or you can say cuts, touch the midrib, they reach up to the midrib, breaking the leaf, breaking it into a number of leaflets. The leaf is called compound leaf, right? What is happening here? Due to cut, like these incisions are touching the midrib, and due to which, because these are cuts, okay, and due to these cuts, the leaf will divide into many leaflets. You can say many small leaves will be formed from one leaf, right? And such a leaf is called compound leaf, and all the parts which has been formed now due to incision will be called leaflets. So there are two types of compound leaves, pinnately compound leaf and permanently compound leaf, right? So let's see what is the difference between pinnately compound leaf and permanently compound leaf. So in a pinnately compound leaf, a number of leaflets are present on a common axis, the rachis. So that common axis is called rachis. And what is this rachis? What is this common axis? This rachis represents the midrib of the leaf. As how the compound leaf is formed? When the incisions touch the midrib. Okay. So many leaflets will be formed here, and these leaflets are present on rachis, and that rachis is actually midrib, right? Example is neem, as you can see here. This is you can say this is a twig of neem, right? But actually this is not a twig, this is a compound leaf. Okay, this is a whole leaf, this is a compound leaf, and this common axis you can see here, this is common axis where all these you can say all these leaves, okay, these are attached. This common axis is actually midrib of that compound leaf, right? So this is a complete leaf, and this common axis is the midrib of the leaf. Okay, and these small leaves that you can say that these are leaves, these are not actually leaves. What are these? These are leaflets which have been formed from a single compound leaf, right? So all these are leaflets of a common leaf, of one leaf. Okay, all these are leaflets, right? So when this you just imagine it like this is a complete leaf, okay, and incisions are touching the midrib. So what will happen? This leaf will divide like this into these small leaflets, right? So these are leaflets, this is midrib, okay, this is a compound leaf, this is a complete compound leaf. And this type of compound leaf where all these leaflets you can see here are attached on a common axis, or you can say rachis, that is called pinnately compound leaf. Now in a permanently compound leaves, the leaflets are attached at a common point. Okay, see here, leaflets are attached at a common point. This is the common point. Okay, and all these leaflets, okay, consider it also this as a complete leaf. Okay, and these incisions are touching the midrib, right? And that's why it has become like you can say these are leaves, right? But these are not separate leaves. What are these? These are part of a common leaf, or these are part of a single leaf, that is compound leaf completely. Okay, and you can see here all these leaflets are attached on a common point here. Okay, this is the common point. All these leaflets are attached here. So such type of compound leaf is called palmately compound leaf. Okay, and that common point is at the tip of petiole. Okay, this is the petiole. You know about the parts of the leaf, right? So this is the petiole part, and at the tip of petiole this common point is present where all these leaflets are attached. So such type of leaves are called palmately compound leaves. And this is the diagram for silk cotton. So example is silk cotton. Now our next topic is phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy is the pattern of arrangement of leaves on the stem or branch. Okay, how the leaves are arranged on the stem or branch, that is called phyllotaxy. So it is of three types: alternate, opposite and rolled phyllotaxy. So three types of phyllotaxy means three types of arrangements can be there of the leaves on the stem or branch. Let's see what is the difference in these three types of phyllotaxy. So first is alternate type of phyllotaxy. In this, a single leaf arises at each node in alternate manner. Okay, as you can see here, this is node, this is second node, third, fourth. Okay, all these are nodes, and this portion between these nodes, this is internode, this is also internode, this is also internode here. Okay, so what is happening in this type of phyllotaxy? A single leaf arises at each node in alternate manner. Like at this node, this leaf is arising this side, then on the next node the leaf will arise on the opposite side, on the you can say on opposite side of it. Okay, so this is called alternate type of phyllotaxy. Alternately these leaves are arranged like this on the nodes. Okay, like this leaf is on this side, now on the next node it will be on this side. Okay, so in this alternate manner these leaves are attached on the nodes, right? And such type of phyllotaxy is found in China rose. That is an example. Next type of phyllotaxy is opposite type, and in opposite type of phyllotaxy a pair of leaves arise at each node and lie opposite to each other. Okay, so how it is different? In the alternate type only one leaf was arising at one node. Okay, but here two leaves arise at same node, at one node. Okay, as you can see here, this is one node and these two leaves are present here. At the next node also these two leaves are present. Here also you can see these two leaves are present. Okay, so at each node two leaves are present in this type of phyllotaxy, and these two leaves will be in opposite direction, will be opposite to each other. Okay, so such type of phyllotaxy is called opposite phyllotaxy, and it is found in Calotropis. Next is roll type phyllotaxy, and here a roll type structure will be formed, as you can see here. Okay, so more than two leaves arise at a node. Okay, the roll can be formed only when more than two leaves will be there on the one position. Okay, so here more than two leaves arise at a node and form a roll. As you can see here, many leaves are present at the single point. This point is node. Okay, so at one node these many leaves are present, and this type of phyllotaxy is called roll phyllotaxy, and example is Alstronia. So this is found in Alstronia. Next topic is modifications of leaves. So there are different modifications found in leaves, like stem and roots. Leaves can also modify themselves for the food storage, for the protection, for the sport, etc. Okay, so let's see the modifications of leaves. So first is leaf modification to form the tendrils. Okay, leaf tendrils. So they are converted into tendrils for climbing, like for support, for taking you can say by taking the support of anything near it, they can climb over that, right? So these tendrils you can see here, these are modified leaves, okay? These tendrils can be modification of stem also in some plants, okay? And in some these are modified leaves. As you have studied in case of stem modifications also, stem tendrils were also present, like in watermelon, right? And here these are leaf tendrils. So this is the difference. These are leaf tendrils, and in the watermelon those were stem tendrils, okay? So function of both is same, both are helping in the climbing, right? So here you can see in the case of pea, these are leaf tendrils and these are for the climbing. Next type of leaf modification is spines, and obviously what will be the function of spines? That those will help in defense, or you can say for the protection of the plant, okay? So leaves are modified into spines for defense. And one more function, because they can reduce the transpiration by forming this spine shape, okay? Because these are found in desert area, na? These cactus are native plants of the desert area. So these spine-like leaves can reduce the surface area to reduce the transpiration rate, to so that they can avoid the loss of water, right? So a main function of this leaf tendril, these spines is to protect the plant, okay? So these are modified into spines for defense. So in cactus you can see here. Next is for storage of food. So sometimes leaves can modify themselves for the food storage. Like the fleshy leaves of many plants store food. Example, onion and garlic. Now example of onion you also studied in case of stem modification, okay? That onion is a modified stem. So here I want to tell you that onion has both modified stem as well as modified leaves. All the layers generally that you eat of the outermost layer, and also all the layers of the onion that you eat, those are modified leaves. And the central one, okay, central part of the onion, that is modified stem. So onion has both modified stem as well as modified leaf, right? So you can give this example for both modification of stem as well as modification of leaves, right? And garlic leaves, these are modified leaves, okay? In garlic, as you can see here, this garlic is also you can say stored food is present here. So these are modified leaves. Next is phyllodes. The petioles in these plants expand. So what happened in some plants? Petioles, you know the structure of leaf, okay? So petiole in these plants expand and become green and synthesize food, okay? You can say these are taking over the function of leaves, okay? These are performing the functions of leaves. You can see here, these are actually petioles, okay? And these have become green and synthesizing food. For example, Australian acacia. Next is in case of insectivorous plants, leaves are modified to capture the insects, right? So leaves of certain insectivorous plants means plants which take their nutrition by capturing and you can say by sucking the fluids from the insects, right? So these are insectivorous plants, capture and digest insects, are also modified leaves. As you can see here in the case of Venus flytrap. This is a plant of Venus flytrap. These are the leaves of Venus flytrap. You can see the structure of these leaves, okay? These are perfect for capturing any insect, okay? And sucking the body fluids from that insect to get their nitrogen, right? So for their nitrogen needs, these plants leaves have been modified like this, right? Because these plants need nitrogen. These plants generally grow in the nitrogen deficient areas, but they need the nitrogen for their proper growth. That's why they capture the insects, okay? So you can see here, these leaves can capture the insect like this. One more example is also here, that is of pitcher plant. Pitcher plant also have that type of leaf shape that can capture the insect, okay? So such insectivorous plants can modify their leaves to capture the insects to fulfill their nitrogen needs. Our next topic is inflorescence. A flower is a modified shoot, right? In starting, from the plumule part of the developing embryo of a seed, a shoot arises, right? And later on, when the vegetative phase of the plant will be completed, a flower will be, you can say, flower will be produced on the shoot. Okay, so how that flower is formed on the shoot? That is actually a modified shoot. A part of shoot forms the flower later on. Okay, so it is a modified shoot wherein the shoot apical meristem changes to floral meristem. So what happened first of all? When the after the vegetative phase, when the flower will arise, first of all the shoot apical meristem means apical part of the shoot has the meristematic cells, means cells which can divide actively, right? So those are called shoot apical meristem. That part of the shoot having those meristematic cells is called shoot apical meristem, right? So that shoot apical meristem changes to floral meristem. Floral meristem means meristem, or you can say the actively dividing part that will form a flower will be called floral meristem, right? So what is happening? Shoot apical meristem is converting into floral meristem, and then that floral meristem give rise to the different parts of flower, and a flower will be formed, right? So the arrangement of flowers on the floral axis is termed as inflorescence. As you have seen in different plants, flowers arrangement is different on the floral axis, right? Flowers are arranged differently on the different plants. So that arrangement of flowers on the floral axis means you can say that particular part of the shoot, particular part of the stem, that is called floral axis. So that arrangement of flowers on the stem, on the plant, on the floral axis, you can say anything, is called inflorescence, right? Now depending on whether the apex gets converted into a flower or continues to grow, two major types of inflorescence are there. First is racemose and second is cymose. So racemose and cymose, these two inflorescence are there. So let's see what is the difference between racemose and cymose inflorescence. So see here, this is racemose type of inflorescence. So what happened here? In this type of inflorescence, the main axis continues to grow. The flowers are borne laterally in an acropetal succession. So what is happening here? You see this is simplified diagram for the same. Okay, so see here, this is the main axis. Okay, this is main axis. So this main axis continues to grow here. Okay, this main axis will continue to grow. Okay, the flowers are borne laterally in an acropetal succession. So what is acropetal succession? Where the old flowers will be present at the base and the new flowers, or you can say the young flowers, will be present at the apex. So obviously this main axis continues to grow here. Okay, so what is happening? First of all, these flowers are formed, then this continues to grow, then these flowers are formed, then this continues to grow and these flowers are formed. Likewise, it continued to grow and these flowers are formed, right? So old flowers are present at the base, right? These are the oldest flower, then these are younger to these, right? So old flowers are present at the base and young flowers are present at the apex, and such type of succession is called acropetal succession. So you can define it like this, that when the old flowers are present at the base and young flowers are present at the apex, that type of succession is called, or that type of arrangement of the flowers is called acropetal succession, right? And acropetal succession is found in racemose type of inflorescence. And what is racemose type of inflorescence? Where the main axis continues to grow and flowers get arranged in an acropetal succession, right? So you can make this simplified diagram. Okay, so see here, the arrangement will be like this in this type of inflorescence. Okay, so make this diagram, this simplified one. Now next type of inflorescence is cymose type inflorescence. Here in this type of inflorescence, the main axis terminates in a flower. The flowers are borne in a basipetal order. Okay, so here you see here, this is the main axis, okay, and this main axis has converted into a flower here. So it terminates, its growth will terminate, it will terminate to form a flower, and the flowers will be born, these, you can say, these lateral branches will give rise to the new flowers, okay. So you see here, this is the main axis, these are two lateral branches from this main axis, and here the new flowers will arise. Now this will act as a main axis, okay, and these two are lateral branches of this main axis, right? So everywhere you can see the main axis, here also main axis terminates to form a flower, and below that the lateral branches will arise to give rise to new flowers, right? So such type of you can say arrangement of flowers is called basipetal succession or basipetal order, okay. Basipetal succession, what is happening in basipetal succession, these young flowers are present at the periphery, right, and old flowers are present at the apex. So this is just opposite of the acropetal succession, okay. So here old flowers are present at the apex, and in case of acropetal, old flowers were present at the base, right? So this is opposite of that, and this type of inflorescence is called cymose type of inflorescence. I think this diagram is quite easy, so you can make it like this, right? Our next topic is the flower, and in this lecture we will study about some of the characteristics of flower, okay. The remaining parts of flower we will do in the next lecture. So let's see what are the characteristics of flower. So first of all, what is a flower? The flower is the reproductive unit in the angiosperms, like you can say reproductive part of the angiosperms is called flower, right? Now a typical flower has 4 different kinds of roles that you have studied in lower classes also, about the 4 different roles of the flower, okay. So these different roles of the flower are arranged successively on the swollen end of the stalk or pedicel. Stalk or pedicel, you can say the structure with the help of which the flower is attached with the stem, okay, and at the end of that stalk or pedicel a swollen structure is present, and that swollen structure is called thalamus, okay. And at the thalamus all these roles of the flower are attached, okay. These different 4 different roles like calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. These are different roles of the flower, and all these are arranged at the thalamus. Now what is thalamus? It is the swollen part of the flower at the end of pedicel where all the floral roles are attached, right? Now let's see, the calyx and corolla are accessory organs, okay. Calyx, outermost, the sepals, and corolla, inner to that means petals, okay. So sepals and petals, or you can say calyx and corolla, these are accessory organs because these are not actually helping in the reproduction, and we are saying that flower is the reproductive part, okay. But this calyx and corolla are not playing any role in reproduction. That's why these are called accessory organs, because these are only for the protection purpose, or for the, you can say, for the pollination. These are only helping the actual sex organs of the flower, okay. Sex organs of the plant, okay. So these are called accessory organs, while androecium and gynoecium, these are actually reproductive organs in a flower, right? In some flowers, the calyx and corolla are not distinct and are termed as perianth. So, because here we are talking about the characteristics of flower. So here, in some flowers, calyx and corolla are attached with each other. Okay, we cannot separately say that these are calyx and these are corolla. Like sepals and petals are not distinct. So such a condition is called perianth. Combinedly, those calyx and corolla will be called perianth. As you can see in this flower, this is lily flower, and here you can see. Can you tell which one is sepal and which one is petal? Like these are bracts, okay? These are different things. These are not sepals. Only these are all sepals and petals which are joined together, okay? These are not distinct. So in such condition, we cannot say sepal and petal. We will say these are perianth. Now next feature is when a flower has both androecium and gynoecium, it is called bisexual flower. Okay, androecium is the male part, gynoecium is the female part of the flower. So when male means when both male part and the female part is present in the same flower, that flower is called bisexual flower. A flower having either only stamens or only carpels is called unisexual flower, right? So see here, this is bisexual flower. Here you can see this part is the gynoecium part, this ovary, stigma, style and stigma. Okay, stigma, style, ovary. This is the gynoecium part, the female part of the flower, and this is these are anthers and filaments, right? So these are stamens, complete stamens you can say. So both male and female part, means androecium and gynoecium, both are present in this flower. So such flowers are called bisexual flower, while the flowers having only either stamen or only carpels will be called unisexual flower. As you can see here in both these flowers, this flower is having only male part, means only stamens are present here in this flower. So such flowers are called staminate flower. Okay, means only stamens are present, so these are staminate flowers. So these are unisexual flower. Okay, in this case you can see only female part, only this gynoecium part is present here. That's why these are called pistillate flower, because gynoecium can also be called pistil, no? Pistil, sorry. Pistil can, we can say all these parts, stigma, style and ovary, combinedly it can be called a pistil, right? So pistillate flowers these are, okay. So both these, staminate and pistillate, these are unisexual flowers, and this is bisexual flower. These are also some other facts about the flower. In symmetry, the flower may be actinomorphic or zygomorphic. Actinomorphic flower means having radial symmetry, and zygomorphic flower is having bilateral symmetry. Now what is the difference between the radial symmetry and bilateral symmetry? You see here, like one flower can be divided into two equal radial halves in any radial plane passing through the center. It is said to be actinomorphic flower or the flower having radial symmetry. Okay, you see here this flower, this is a mustard flower. Okay, here you can see either we are cutting this flower by this plane or by this plane or by this plane. Okay, these are different cutting planes for this flower. So by any plane, if we divide this flower, it will be divided into two equal halves, right? So such type of flowers are called actinomorphic flower, and such a symmetry is called radial symmetry. You know about the radial symmetry because we have studied about the radial symmetry in case of animal, in animal kingdom chapter also. Okay, so same thing is present here also. So this is radial symmetry, and the flowers having radial symmetry are called actinomorphic flowers. Now when it can be divided into two similar halves only in one particular vertical plane, it is called zygomorphic. Okay, so what is zygomorphic flower? When a flower can be divided into two equal halves by only one particular plane. Okay, so such flowers are called zygomorphic flowers. For example, pea flower, as you can see here, this is pea flower. Okay, and if you will cut this pea flower like this, okay, in this direction, right, so only this plane will be able to divide this pea flower into in two equal halves, right? If you cut it like this or like this, it will not be divided into two equal halves. Only this vertical plane can divide this flower into two equal halves, right? So such flowers are called zygomorphic flowers, or the flowers having bilateral symmetry. Now some asymmetric flowers are also found. A flower is asymmetric, or it can be called irregular, if it cannot be divided into two similar halves by any vertical plane passing through the center. As you can see here, this flower cannot be divided into two equal halves by any plane. Okay, and this is canna flower. This flower is of canna. Now some more features of the flower. A flower may be trimerous, tetramerous or pentamerous when the floral appendages are in the multiple of 3, 4 or 5 respectively, right? When the floral appendages, means sepals and petals. Okay, so if these sepals and petals are consider if any flower has three petals. Okay, so that flower will be called trimerous flower. Okay, also any multiple of the three, right? If 6 petals are present or 9 petals are present, okay, in that case also that flower will be called trimerous flower. So 3 or multiple of 3, such number will represent a trimerous flower. Tetramerous means the petals number is 4 or multiple of 4, that flower will be called tetramerous, like 4, 8, 12. Okay, so such flowers will be called tetramerous flower. And pentamerous flowers means the petals are 5, 10, 15, so such flowers will be called pentamerous flower, right? Now flowers with bracts, reduced leaf. What are bracts? Reduced leaf found at the base of pedicel. As you can see here, these are pedicel. Means pedicel, or you can say stalk. So at the base of this pedicel, you can see these reduced leaf-like structure. This reduced leaf means this small leaf-like structure. Okay, these small leaf-like structure are called bracts, and such flowers are called bracteate flowers. In which flowers these reduced leaf-like structures are present at the base of pedicel, such flowers will be called bracteate flowers. And the flowers without these bracts are called abracteate flowers, right? So these are not present in all the flowers. If these are present, the flower will be called bracteate, and if not present, the flowers will be called abracteate. I hope you can understand the difference between these bracts and the sepals. Sepals are present here at the thalamus part, okay, just at this end of the pedicel, and these bracts are present at the lower end of the pedicel where it is attached with the stem, right? So this is the difference between the positions of the sepals and the bracts, right? So whenever you see a flower, just try to observe that if bracts are present or not, okay, where the sepals are present. So you can better understand about these flowers, the structures of flower, whenever you go outside of your house. Just try to observe the flowers, either it is trimerous, pentamerous, okay, and where the bracts are present, either it is having distinct sepals or petals or having perianth condition. Okay, so observe all these things. Now let's discuss the homework solution of the previous lecture. One question that I gave the stem modification, that was very direct question, so we will not waste time to discuss that. Okay, one question I gave, that what is bud and what is difference between terminal bud and axillary bud. So that is it is the answer for that question. So what is bud? A compact growth on a plant that develops into a leaf, flower or shoot is called bud. Okay, so you can say a growth point from where a plant can develop leaf, flower or shoot is called bud. Now what is the difference between terminal bud and axillary bud? See here, first is terminal buds are able to hinder the growth of axillary buds, while the axillary buds cannot do so, right? Terminal buds are also called apical buds because these are present at the apex of the stem, right? And these buds can hinder, these can inhibit the growth of axillary buds, because axillary buds are present on the axils of leaves. So when the sometimes what happen, when the terminal bud is growing, okay, when the terminal part of the stem is growing, it inhibits the growth of axillary buds, okay, but axillary buds cannot do so. Second difference is terminal buds occur at the end or apex of the stem, while the axillary buds occur at the leaf node, which is where a leaf emerges from the stem of a which is where a leaf emerges from the stem. Next is terminal buds increase plant height while axillary buds do not. Terminal buds are present at the apex, so these are responsible for increasing the plant height, while axillary buds are not increasing the height of plant. Thank you.